Hello again, welcome back to the channel. Glad you could join me. Today I want to talk about Dark Progeny. It's a Doctor Who novel by Steve Emmerson. I have been a fan of Doctor Who up until Peter Garibaldi. I believe that was his name. They had some okay stuff. After that, they just kind of lost interest. The first Doctor that I'm old enough to have seen quite a few Doctors. I've actually watched all the episodes of Doctor Who up to the Peter Garibaldi. That is who I'm thinking of. I'm going to check. Yes, Peter Capaldi. Peter Capaldi, excuse me. I knew it was an Italian-sounding last name. Anyway, Peter Capaldi was the last Doctor, and after the whole thing with what's her name, Clara Oswald, I want to say. After all the stuff with her, I kind of lost interest in where they were going with the Doctor. But when I was younger, I remember seeing, let's see, what was his name? Sylvester McCoy. I remember seeing him and trying to remember. Tom Baker was another one that I remembered seeing. Not a lot of Tom Baker, but I'd seen him, and then there was an older one. I believe he was the third Doctor. I'm not seeing his image here. John Pertwee. Yes, him. Anyway, after the reboot with Eccleston. What was his name? It's kind of interesting. I pulled up the Doctors. He was Christopher Eccleston. So they rebooted the series with Christopher Eccleston. And after that, I decided to go back and watch as many as I could. And I found quite a bit, all the way back to William Hartnell, who was the original Doctor. He actually played Doctor Who on the radio show, and then played him in the television show as well. I've even seen the movie that I want to say Vincent Price. No, it wasn't Vincent Price. I can see his face. He was in Star Wars. Let's see if I can find. It was he played Grand Moff Tarkin. Don't remember his name off the top of my head. Let's see. Peter Cushing. I don't know why I couldn't remember Peter Cushing's name. He played Doctor Who in a movie called Doctor Who and the Daleks. Anyway, I have gone quite far afield down the Doctor Who rabbit hole. Anyway, I've read a number of books in the Doctor Who set in the Doctor Who universe, and this is one of them, Dark Progeny. This is actually the 8th Doctor, and the 8th Doctor was played in one made-for-television movie. Darn it. Don't remember. I can see his face, but I can't remember. There we go. Took me a while to find it, and it still doesn't. Let's see. Paul McGann. I should know these. They should be right here in the front of my brain, but obviously they're not. Anyway, Paul McGann. So, if you're unfamiliar with Doctor Who, long-running British sci-fi television show, started way back in the era of in the era of radio, and then moved to television where it was in black and white for a very long time. When the Doctor is injured to the point of death, he regenerates and becomes a completely new person. The original Doctor, William Hartnell, if I remember right, he passed away. And as a way to keep the series going, they came up with this idea of regenerating, and they replaced the Doctor Who actor. So they've kept that going for quite some time now. Anyway, if you are familiar with Doctor Who and you're sitting there going, well, I don't remember this guy he had one episode, and it was a made-for-television movie to try, as I understand it, to try to get the American market into Doctor Who. And it's very much more an American. It's really weird if you've never seen it. It's kind of even hard to explain, because it's a very Americanized version of the Doctor, but he is canon, and he kind of killed Doctor Who for a while. So we have Sylvester McCoy. He was the last of the British doctors before this Americanization happens. Paul McGann is cast as the regenerated version of the Doctor, becomes the Eighth Doctor. And what they did after the whole fiasco that was the made-for-television movie, the Doctor Who basically went off the air and stayed off the air until Christopher Eccleston was made the Doctor. Trying to see if I can. There is actually a Doctor that is between, but he doesn't actually come out until much later in the run. It's kind of a revision that there was a Doctor between the 8th and the 9th Doctors. It's kind of weird. But Christopher Eccleston, they ended up rebooting the whole series, kind of. And I'm getting way deep into the weeds. Let's go back to the book. Okay, so because of the failure of the made-for-television movie that was the 8th Doctor, the 8th Doctor really is very different. And by different, I don't mean that he was totally different from the other Doctors or anything like that. What I mean is that they focused a lot more with the 8th Doctor on books, comics, and other things. I believe they did some audio dramas with the 8th Doctor. And so they ended up not doing as much visually as they had with the other Doctors because of the failure. So we have this book, The Dark Progeny, that features the 8th Doctor, and of course, if you're unfamiliar with Doctor Who, the the Doctor is an alien. He has a time machine / spaceship called the TARDIS that allows him to move around in time and space. And he picks up companions as he goes along the way, has adventures, and they can be set in the future, set in the past, set in the present, just wherever they want to set them, they set them. Now, in Doctor Who, Dark Progeny, the Doctor ends up on a planet called Ceres Alpha. It's in the process of being terraformed by humans. They have these huge machines that are going around and churning up everything and reseeding and reshaping the planet so that that humans can colonize the planet. And they, in the course of doing the terraforming, they find out that there was on this planet an alien civilization, but they don't really care about that because this is a business thing. They want to make money, so they're terraforming the planet, and they're basically plowing under anything that could have been of interest to, say, xenoarchaeologists, if I am giving the right term here. And so we have several people. Gaskell Tyron is one of the main villains in this particular adventure. He's head of the company that is terraforming the planet. And one thing that is happening is, like I said, they did have a civilization on this planet, but they're hiding that fact so that they can just terraform the planet because they don't want to have to worry about people coming in and stopping their efforts because that's going to cost them money. Into this situation, the Doctor and his two companions, Fitz Kreiner and Anji Kapoor, arrive. What ends up kind of driving the plot is that not only do we have this company, World Corp, that is terraforming the planet, and they're hiding the fact that there was an alien civilization here. There are babies that are being born to the workers / colonists that are exhibiting paranormal abilities. And that is something else that World Corp is hiding. In fact, two of the characters in this book, Vetamani and her husband Joseph, they have a kid, but they're told that the kid died in childbirth. And later, they discovered that the child is still alive and was taken from them because of these psychic abilities that the baby was manifesting. If you like Doctor Who, you'll probably enjoy this one. It's kind of hard to say much at this point about, if you're a Doctor Who fan, you're definitely going to be into this one because, as I said, this is an adventure of the Eighth Doctor, and not very many people know about or have seen the Eighth Doctor. There was one episode of the Eighth Doctor, and after that, the Eighth Doctor, unless you really got into the books and comics and whatever else of the time, you don't even know the Eighth Doctor exists. If you're a modern Doctor Who fan, for you, the Doctor the whole thing started with Christopher Eccleston. So you may not be aware that there was even a pedigree before that is goes way back into I want to say way back into the 40s or 50s. let's see, 1963, looks like. November 23rd, 1963. That was the first episode of Doctor Who was aired on 1963, November 23rd, 1963. Yeah, so that was when the first televised episode was. It's entirely possible. I'd have to check and see how far back the radio program went. But anyway, it's kind of hard if you were never a fan of the Doctor in the older iteration of the Doctor. You may find this very strange and off-putting. The writing was okay. It wasn't spectacular. It wasn't terrible. It was okay. There were some parts of it that were very well written, and there were other parts of it that were a little bit disorganized and confusing. But if you're interested in science fiction, you may be interested in this. Again, if hard science fiction is what you're interested in, it's kind of hard to tell whether or not you would be interested in this because of the fact that it is a Doctor Who adventure. And if you are not a fan of Doctor Who, you probably aren't going to like this. If you are a fan of Doctor Who, it's one of those ones where maybe, maybe not. Again, part of it is the fact that this is an Eighth Doctor adventure, and not very many people had the time to get into the Eighth Doctor, because there really wasn't a long time for... I didn't even... So, being a Doctor Who fan, I had seen a couple of the shows here and there. I didn't really get into the John Pertwee era. He was way before my time, but because of PBS, I saw them. The first one that I really watched was Sylvester McCoy as the Doctor. And after that, I started watching some of the other stuff. And then I really got into it with Christopher Eccleston and with the new Doctor Who series. David Tennant was great. I would have liked to see Christopher Eccleston for a few more series. He did one series and he was done. Matt Smith was okay. Peter Capaldi was so-so. Anyway, that being said, it was well enough written, and it had that Doctor Who flair. So if that's what you're into, you might enjoy Dark Progeny. Let me know if you've read Dark Progeny. Let me know if you've read any of the other Doctor Who stuff out there. Like, share, subscribe, all that other stuff. And until next time, enjoy what you're reading.